Black America is we got black people and we got niggas.
First on the roster, we have Kanye West. Wait. Before we get to any of that, we need to set the stage a little first.
Who's more racist, black people or white people? Black people. You know why? Because we hate black people too.
Being called a by my own people.
The caricature is one of the most insulting of all anti-black caricatures.
It's like a civil war going on with black people. And there's two sides. It's black people and there's niggas.
Are you biologically African? Definitely. And are you psychologically African?
You blame the system? Where was his father?
I don't know what racism is.
They didn't lock any of us up at 7.
I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism.
That song is in zero ways, in no way connected to police brutality or Sandra Bland.
This man kneeled on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Who was George Floyd?
I seen Candace Owens try to convince white America, don't worry about it, he's a criminal anyway.
Everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was.
I don't care about slavery, I don't care about segregation, I don't care about you, I don't care how many of you all go to jail.
All these other races don't do nothing but destroy.
Real go, something don't smell right.
Candace does not act black enough. Candace speaks proper English.
But I was too white for the black kids, and I was too black for the white kids.
I was like the only black kid in my school for a while.
So I was told I talked white.
Very much bullied by black women.
He said, I want to be so white, I'm the biggest rapper of all time.
I do want to be big and white.
Are you totally against interracial relationships?
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why. It is an exercise in self-hatred.
I'm already black, I don't need no black bitch.
Hey bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
I married a black woman once. What? I'd never do that again.
Me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like that. Man. We ain't night riders.
And I want your white listeners to understand.
I think Latinos, y'all deserve the right to say that. Yeah, you're right.
Photo that I used of the blackface.
Right. For black people in general, cuz we sell trauma.
Why you make them black? Why can't have anything, man?
You don't want to ask me. I'm canceled.
Watch closely. You're about to experience another moment.
We can't even have reality TV where niggas ain't trying to squabble.
Let me tell you what I find frustrating about what the problem is.
As a coon, as a token.
It depends on what position the token is in.
I said George Bush don't care about black people. As soon as I wore a red hat, I'm a coon. You can't do enough for nobody out here. So how about it? I stop.
So if you're a black person, at some point in your life, it has probably come to your awareness that the margin of error for you potentially having your black card taken away is quite small. And if you don't know what I mean by that, here is a micro example.
I just want to know, do you consider yourself a white woman?
Consider myself a white woman?
Yes.
No.
No, so you strictly black?
No.
Okay. So I don't...
How many forks did y'all have?
How many forks? Like in the cutlery drawer?
She said the cutlery. Yeah, she said cutlery. Never mind.
That's right, folks. If you have a cutlery drawer white, you're a Caucasian. You're dripping in caucasity. Ridiculous. So if you weren't aware, what was essentially happening is that she was being examined, chastised, if you will, for seeing how culturally black she was. Now, this video isn't necessarily to do with cultural blackness necessarily. It's more so to do with political blackness, i.e., are you pro-black or a race traitor? And so I want to get to this part of the video about as quickly as possible, you know, to get to my little tongue-in-cheek analysis, if you will. However, before that, before I start this video formally, let's say, I need to start it a little bit unorthodoxly because I need to start with a little bit of a confession. When I initially started drafting this video, I admittedly started conclusion first. I wanted to pitch the premise of what does it mean to be a race traitor, what does it mean to be a if you will, starting backwards with the premise of actually this is an absurd term, this is just used to marginalize people, you know, an already marginalized group of people being further marginalized by people within it. I started conclusion first. I was using inductive reasoning. I laid out my premise, I had the conclusion that I wanted to get to, and then I worked backwards from there to justify why actually my belief of actually this, label is actually silly, not good. I was gonna use something that I actually kind of hate, you know, kind of postmodern obfuscation of like, well, actually, there's no such thing as a race traitor because... Low-key, I started off pretty hypocritical, especially off the back of a previous video that I did about video essays and how they sometimes actually start ideology first and work backwards from there. I was playing to an ideology that I didn't even know that I had, so I sat and took myself away and thought about it for some time. And then I actually came to the conclusion that actually there is probably something that even I would come to the conclusion of referring to as a kind of race traitor. I probably still wouldn't use that language because it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but there's something, an internalized racism, a wishing one was white, a being against black people in some regard. And then the other thing that I was going to do in like classic video essay style was like specifying my terms and talking about Marxism and drawing parallel to how that relates to like race relations and stuff, because proletariat and bourgeoisie and then I thought, let me scrap all that bullshit and just do the kind of video that I would actually want to make. Which is to say, I'm going to fucking Gen Z it up, because I'm going to make what is essentially a tier list video. People that are the most pro-black to the least pro-black, or I guess anti-black if you will, the race traitor category. I feel like it's probably pretty obvious what is meant by the term of, say, like race traitor, or but in case you need like a formal definition, it's essentially like somebody who is considered to not have the interests of their race at heart, or they're like traitors to it in some way. And generally speaking, this is black people calling it to other black people, but then you will have instances of sometimes some pretty brazen whites calling black people that too, which is pretty fucking ballsy. It's like, I have no expertise or qualification in what would refer to you as being a black person, but let me say, I don't think you're one of it. It's like, listen here, sonny. No. Was it that shit that white people said back in the day? Listen here, Buster. You're really cruising for a brew. Oh my god, bro. It's gonna be person, excerpt, elaboration. That's basically the structure per person, and then I'm even going to be thrown into the gambit. And so to get this video on the road, if you're new around here or simply forgot, welcome or welcome back to the Layton Observes channel. It is I, the Layton in question. My knee popped just as I said that, and that's sad. I'm getting old. I am the Layton in question. You look as delightful as ever, and this is a tentatively titled installment of On the Spectrum, a show where I rank some fairly serious things actually, but do it in a little bit of a cheeky manner. So yeah, strap in and strap on as we explore this topic together. So first things first that we need to do is set the scale. We need to set a frame of reference for what the heck I'm even talking about. We need to see the upper limit, which is to say the most maximally pro-black person that you could be, so to speak, compared to a anti-black person, so to speak. And so for the upper limit for the maximally black, pro-black person that one could be, we have Doctor Umar Johnson.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Umar. Are you totally against interracial relationships?
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why. Just because they land in the bed with you, what makes you think that they shed their racism? They don't. White people are racist. All white people are racist. There's no exceptions. They may not all be bigots, but they're all racist. Why would a black man need to copulate, build a family with anything other than a black woman when you have so many black women available? It is an exercise in self-hatred. There's no way to get around it. Because marriage ain't about love, it's not colorblind, and it is totally economic. Who believes love is love?
I mean, that's most people's answer.
That might be most black people. Love ain't love for most white folks. Everything white people do has a political purpose. I'm against the snow bunny crisis, and I want your white listeners to understand, because people be trying to say stuff like, he's the black Hitler. I'm not the black Hitler. America owes us more for the psychological Holocaust than she can ever owe for the labor. So we need to talk more about that. In addition to that, I don't hear nobody talking about the role the Arabs played in the transatlantic slave trade. I don't hear anybody talking about the role that the European Jews played in the slave trade. All Caucasians in the music industry are parasites. They feed
everyone. They feed off the low consciousness of the black community and they exploit it for profit right in front of our faces. And what hurts me to heaven is the fact that they would never let their own Jewish children promote the type of filth they finance our kids to promote. If one of your parents is an African, we accept you as an African as long as you identify. You have to be psychologically black and you also have to be biologically black. Blackness is a two-pronged test. First of all, are you biologically African? And are you psychologically African? When you tell me you're African, you're saying two things to Dr. Umar when you're talking to me. When you say I'm an African, that means you're telling me I know I'm biologically black, but I also want you to know, Dr. Umar, I'm psychologically black. Oh, Barack Obama was made president for two reasons. Domestically, he was made president to force alternative sexual lifestyles onto black children, sexual confusion as a means of population control. Why would I want to take my original seed, God's seed, and put it in a cave-dwelling organism?
At this point in the video, I'm not going to agree or disagree to anything that I have just shown you. It is merely to exemplify some of what could be and is being considered the most kind of black thought. This is a popular guy, you know, I should probably start with that first and foremost. You know, this guy has been on The Breakfast Club at least like 10 times. He very frequently does talks. He's on this interview, he's on that interview. This is a very famous guy. He's probably the most famous Pan-Africanist, I think is what he refers to himself as, generally speaking. And so, you know, within that, as you just observed, some of what is constituted within that, his ideology, so to speak, are things like, he has an idea of what it means to be psychologically black, for instance. We'll talk about that later, maybe. He's anti-interracial dating. He's ostensibly against the gays, particularly in black men, let's say. He believes that all white people are racist. Classic, shout out back to the Robin DiAngelo days. And also seemingly thinks that, I don't know if he would necessarily agree to this characterization, but in some ways thinks that white people are somewhat inferior. He referred to them as cave-dwelling organisms. What did he say? Why would I want to put my seed, God's seed, in a cave-dwelling organism? He was saying that because you don't have melanin if you're a Caucasian. If you're watching this and you're a Caucasian, he thinks you're a cave-dwelling. Anyway, that's who we have in the green corner. Now let's see who we have in the red corner. In the red corner, we have a man by the name of Jesse Lee Peterson.
Because guess what? You got people like Candace Owens. You got people like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. You got people like YouTubian commentator Jesse Lee Peterson.
Who I became aware of a few years ago during a particularly, is debatable, I was going to say during a particularly anti-woke era of YouTube, let's say. It's difficult to say whether that is still going. In many circles it is, but it feels like it was particularly prominent, you know, 5 years ago or so. So that's when I stumbled upon him.
Does racism exist?
I believe racism does exist.
And where's the proof of that?
And if I wasn't using him to kind of set the scale for the kind of lower limit, so to speak, I would probably put him in a coming up later category, which I have referred to as dancing for the white man. I literally almost forgot about this man's existence until like a clip of him came up on my Twitter feed a few weeks ago, and it was just sad to be reminded of this man's existence. Sad.
The whole purpose of getting married is to have babies. If you didn't want to have babies, there's no reason to get married.
I'm 40 years old. There's no reason to get married if you don't want babies.
Right.
What about love? What about, like, I wanted a father for my kids. I was a single mom.
Well,
what about that?
How about the father that they already have that made the babies?
Like the abusive one who broke a door over my head and called me a C word every time I didn't do something he wanted? No, thank you.
Oh, I wanted to ask you that. I'm just glad you brought that up. Why are women so abusive today? I noticed that women.
I just told you that I got a door broken over my head, and you asked me why women are so abusive.
What were you doing that made him do that?
I'm done. You just told me that it's my fault that a man broke a door over my head.
No, that was a question.
I didn't do anything.
So you just sit around being nice, you weren't being difficult on anything.
So if I just shut my mouth and look pretty, then everything will be fine. And if I just look like a pretty little doll that doesn't have any ideas, it doesn't mind that he's off cheating, if I just stay sweet, then I won't get hit and my marriage will be fine, right? Is that what you're telling me?
So what were you doing that caused him to do that, that brought that kind of anger out of him?
I told him that it wasn't okay that he was cheating on me.
So you were harassing him?
That clip doesn't necessarily relate to the topic of this video, but I think it does do a pretty good job at conveying to you the attitude of this guy, the kind of antagonism of this guy, the contrarianism for what feels like to me contrarianism sake. But the thing that I actually wanted to show you that for me solidly exemplifies him as somebody for being on the bottom rung, let's say, for making him eater what is even my life, is going to be this clip here that we can watch along together.
You said you believe white people should have more children?
We definitely need white babies. And I tremble at the idea that white babies, that the white group is going down in numbers, because if you lose white folks, America, it's over for America. Because if you notice, white people tend to be more innovative. They're more creative. They have ideas about things. All these other races don't do nothing but destroy. They don't build, they destroy.
White people are more creative and innovative. Black people, or other races, he didn't even necessarily specify just black people. He said other races just destroy. And it's like, sir, do you not realize that you are a part of the category of other races? Whew. The reason why this is somebody that I would consider to be, again, despite the uncomfortability with the idea of referring to somebody as somebody, say, like a race traitor or a king or what have you, is that this person is quite literally, in my opinion, dancing for the approval and probably revenue of white people. It's such a clear black people down here, white people up here, and actually we need more white people because they're the only ones keeping the country afloat. It's like, do you I don't know, dude. Now that we've got the formalities out of the way, we can get a little bit more loosey-goosey. We've got the upper limit, we've got the lower limit, so now we can talk about a few examples of people along the way. In the first category that I want to talk about are people that are prospectively, one may argue, systemic racism deniers, or maybe just more shortly racism deniers. And so the first person that we have on the conveyor belt coming down for your scrutiny is Denzel Washington.
You know, incarceration rates in America has been a problem, especially as opposed to minorities. Do you think we've made any headway in the
I think it's more important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, I was in Chicago a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, and we saw these little kids on bikes with masks on the side of their head, like 5 or 6 of them. And the driver said, yeah, they're little yummies. I said, who? He said, little yummies. Look up, Google Lil Yummy. Lil Yummy was an 11-year-old murderer.
Wow.
And you look at his picture, you'll see the headshot of him, and he's like this. And he got murdered at 11 by a 14-year-old.
Wow.
Who's doing life now, and a 16-year-old.
That makes no sense.
You blame the system? Where was his father? Yeah. It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And yeah, well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
Yeah.
You know, like I did talk about my 3 closest friends, and they did, you know, 15 to 25. One did 28, this and that. I was the only one of the 3 that had a father in my life, even though my parents were together. But I still had a father who was a gentle man and a good example, and they didn't. We can blame the system if we want, but they didn't lock any of us up at 7.
Yeah.
We were all doing enough to get locked up at 13. My parents sent me in another direction. They didn't have anybody to help them, and they kept doing what they was doing, and the system got them. So I don't, the system is rigged, but why? All the more reason not to help it.
So, in that clip, one may argue that Denzel Washington is making the point that all this racism stuff we don't really need to talk about or even consider, because actually children, they're then growing to adults because that's how time works. The deprivation and the proclivity for antisocial behaviors happens young, far before the system, insofar that there is one, gets to them or what have you. He's seemingly making a case, not entirely that the reason why people go astray is due to fatherlessness, but it seems to have a pretty significant impact, and this is backed up statistically as well. Like the proclivity that you'll say go on to go on to higher education or get a, say, drug addiction, or just have it lower life achievement or satisfaction and achievement overall is significantly lower if you come from a one-parent household or, you know, single mother household, and that disproportionately happens more so with black people than it does with white people. So it seems to be, or one person could interpret what he's saying as like, oh, well, he's essentially saying, well, if only black fathers stayed in the home, then that means that all these race issues that are downstream, that are currently being blamed on systemic racism, would essentially fix themselves. If you just stop nutting in baby mamas. I don't think that's explicitly what he's saying, and again, this is just like one piece. I'm sure if you were to talk to him about racism at large, he would, you know, there would probably be a larger context, but this was a pretty famous clip, and, you know, I feel like people have kind of ran with this thereafter, talking about like, see, this black person thinks that racism not real, so I guess it must not be. Is Denzel Washington denying the existence of racism? I don't think that he is, personally. I think he's just making a point that you have the macro, which are the systems that be, but then you have the micro, you know, the things that start in the home, and a lot of things start in the home, you know, trauma, the shaping of your personality, the things that you are interested in and by. I don't think it's a black and white. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's like a, well, before we start having the conversation about things like racism and systemic racism, maybe we need to start looking in our own homes, you know? And so at this moment in time, I only really feel comfortable putting him in somewhat of a neutral position. I don't think it's necessarily anti-black. I don't necessarily think that it's pro-black either. I think it's more so kind of first principles thinking, if I'm honest, of like, well, let's look at some of the variables at play, and this seems to be a pretty substantial one, so maybe we should look at that first before we get to these kind of more abstract, debatably more difficult to justify concepts. Denzel Washington, C tier, dead neutral. Moving on, we have Lil Wayne, who probably doesn't need that much of an introduction, even if you're a Caucasian in the suburbs. Lil Wayne is a rapper. Many people put him on their like Mount Rushmore of rap, the people that influenced it pretty substantially, you know. And a few years ago, he got into a little bit of hot water because of his beliefs on racism. I guess I'll just show you the clips and then I'll elaborate afterwards. Should probably drink some water. I'm gonna drink some water and you can watch these clips.
That night, that day,
Yeah.
that I shot myself, the police, I was the only person in the house.
Right.
Police came through there. They knocked the doors down. I was on the floor.
Right.
They jumped over. They all hopped over me and went looking for the drugs and looking for this and that. It was a white police that came, ran up there and stopped and said, "What the are y'all doing? Do y'all not see this baby on the floor?" And they said, "We called the ambulance. The ambulance." Say, "Ambulance, he has a hole in his chest." He picked me up. He didn't drop me off at the ambulance and say, "You take him." He brought me to the hospital room and made two and stood there and waited till the doctor said he's gonna make it. He said, "Don't worry, my name's Uncle Bob." He was white as snow. The that hopped over me was blacker than me.
Was he a cop?
Yeah, he was a cop, and my life was saved by a white man. I don't know what racism is. I know a good name Uncle Bob, though.
So that is clip number one. That is Lil Wayne essentially saying that, you know, he doesn't believe in racism because after all, his life was saved by a white man. And then there's another moment where he was asked about racism, and this is his response. This is that interaction.
A lot of white kids love rap.
Yes.
Explain that. What does that say to you? What's the message of it? What's the bigger picture of it?
I don't want to be bashed because I don't want to sound like I'm on the wrong if there is a side, but I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism.
So if I were to summarize, based on these clips alone, Lil Wayne's ideas of racism, which again is not to say holistically, but based on these clips, as I've just said, it seems to be that Lil Wayne has a kind of like, this is a kind of standpoint epistemology issue, so to speak. It's kind of like, well, I am my own frame of reference, and therefore based on my frame of reference, I use that as the barometer, as the compass for what I believe and not believe to be true. And so it's kind of like, well, here is my experience. I've not experienced it. And so I guess it doesn't exist, I suppose. Again, and maybe this is me being a bit too good faith, because I don't think that he's explicitly saying, well, therefore, I don't believe that it doesn't exist at all. It's just like, well, in my experience, it hasn't happened to me. So you probably don't want to use me as your frame of reference. I think he kind of just operates in his own world. It has this kind of attitude of like, why the fuck are you asking me about this in the first place? Although on the flip side of that, it's like, well, why would you go on one of those kinds of shows? He's in his own bubble. I guess. You know, the world has ostensibly been pretty kind to him, and that seems to be his belief system. The other thing, and this I guess pertains to the topic at hand, but it's more so it's a bit more specific because it's his thoughts or initial thoughts again some years ago on Black Lives Matter, where initially when coming across that he's just like confused about what the fuck that even is.
What's your thought on Black Lives Matter?
What is it? What do you mean?
The idea was that there's this movement called Black Lives Matter, thinking that the rest of America didn't seem to understand that Black Lives Matter.
It just sounds weird. I didn't know that you put a name on. It's not a name. It's not whatever. I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands Black matter these days, I don't know what it is. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matter, especially to my.
So yeah, at this moment in time, I'm going to put Lil Wayne also in C tier. I don't have it in me to say that he's necessarily like anti-black, but also based on these examples, I wouldn't say that he's necessarily pro either. Or, you know, insofar that you consider believing in racism and systemic racism to be paramount to being pro-black, because, you know, the whole thing is like, you know, you need to believe that, oh, something is against us, there's an oppressor to come over, and if you're of the belief that there isn't necessarily an oppressor, then one may say, well, you're not pro-black because you don't believe in the story, the narrative, the thing that we have to overcome, the whites keeping us down and blah blah. I feel like that was pretty self-explanatory, but by extension, on the BLM thing, I want to talk about Lil Yachty. Now, I don't necessarily know that much about Lil Yachty. I know that he was on probably the best XXL.
I give a fuck what you saying. Bitch, no, I ain't playing. I'm by my fatty.
I know that he had one of the hardest walkouts of all time. XXL. Hardest walkout of all time. Oh, and then this clip recently.
How much have you spent on charitable causes this year? Let's start cooking these pancakes.
I haven't spent any money on charitable causes because I'm broke.
So this year, I mean,
subscribe to Patreon.
What about last year?
It's just blurry. I be doing so much.
BLM? Because you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that. Send it to the fucking news.
BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions, and you probably wouldn't know anything about it because you don't care about black people. Follow.
Oh my god. The cadence, bro. Alrighty. When I, a few years ago, called out BLM as a scam because I was talking about them buying mansions and stuff, I get called a on the internet. When Lil Yachty says it, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily know how the internet responded to it. I don't be partaking in fucking celebrity drama and fucking gossip, bro. Sort out your own fucking life. You know what I mean? Before, oh, did you hear what such and such said? Shut the fuck. He's kind of throwing her under the bus a little bit, low-key, talking about... He's saying, because you don't actually care about black people, which implies that he does care about black people, and that's why he didn't give to a phony organization like Black Lives Matter. Oh, you can't say that because you've been fucking brainwashed, alright? They're not the good guys that you think they are. Lil Yachty seemingly is pro-black people, hence why he didn't give to a phony cause. Let's continue.
I do care about black people. Look at my chocolate. You're mad?
It's a disguise.
You're mad. I think I'm literally the most pro-black person in this room.
Because you have an all-white staff?
They're not white. They're POC. I'm gay. Thank you.
They're not white, they're POC. POC doesn't necessarily mean black. And also this geezer chiming in talking about I'm gay? That doesn't change your race. I suspect he's probably a white man or maybe an Asian man. Either way, not black. And also saying that you're gay doesn't make you more pro-black. What the fuck are we talking? They should have cut that out, honestly. That made her look bad as fuck. Is there any more?
What? Don't laugh.
I do have a gay, so I also am...
gay?
I have a gay on my...
A member of the LGBTQIA.
Point is that I'm diverse. I'm
that's too many letters.
Divergent.
You are divergent.
What else is there to take into consideration? I saw that he also did actually have Doctor Umar on his podcast, so he's in like an interesting spot where he seems to be like associated with, as I've said, the most maximally pro-black example of a person that I could find. But then also on the flip, because you would imagine if you find a black person or even a white person that's like anti-BLM, that you'd be like, oh, that's because you're anti-black. And it's like, actually, he's kind of like in this realm where he's like both. He's pro-black in one sense, but then his what some people would regard to as an anti-blackness in another is actually a pro-blackness, because it's like, well, this is a phony cause and he actually wants he wants an authentic version of it, I suppose, is essentially what I'm saying. And so even before taking into account the Umar association, I mean, you know, if he's a friend of Umar, he's a friend of mine. Lil Yachty's ate here, doesn't give to phony organizations, calls out other people for doing so and pedestalizing that as though that's even a good cause. And then associated with, you know, the most well-known Pan-Africanist, the most pro-black one could ever be. Lil Yachty's A tier. Next we have a category pertaining to black conservatives, and the reason why I'm coming in with this preamble or prelude beforehand is because by some black people's estimations, there actually is no such thing as a black conservative. Thumbnail, Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell, Clarence Thomas, and then quite literally an image of a raccoon. Wow, that's where that comes from. Wow. By some people's estimations, no such thing as black conservatives, because it's like, well, the correct way to be a black person is fundamentally incompatible with conservative ideology or whatever, which I think is kind of interesting, particularly off the back of more and more black people, particularly in the last election, voting for a conservative, or maybe they just liked Trump in particular. So there's that thing, black people seemingly leaning more so toward political conservatism. But then even on, let's say, cultural conservatism, people have been like making these parallels for years. Like I remember off the top of my head, there's kind of like this sketch that SNL did back in the day where they did, you know, their show Black Jeopardy, and they had, you know, a classic kind of conservative character, and as it turns out, the joke is that like, oh, they actually relate on a lot of stuff, and it's like, yeah, because if you like actually spoke to black people,
well, that is not bad, dog.
they're actually kind of, you know, kind of, conservative, kind of culturally conservative. There's going to need to be a conversation to be had about, you know, this idea that like having liberal politics is kind of like a linchpin, or like for a time it seems like to be on the left side of politics was kind of de facto the position that black people had to be, I suppose, and that is less and less becoming so the case. I don't think there's necessarily much bearing to be said on like whether you're constituted as like black or white based on whatever your politics are. And you know who else also thinks that? Malcolm X. His belief seemingly being, well, like fundamentally, whether you're on the left or right, whether you're liberal or conservative, you're fundamentally still playing into the kind of like white structure. It seems like almost the only thing that Malcolm X thinks that like liberals or the left do is they're just better at marketing, because fundamentally they're still interested in upholding the white system of power, which I don't necessarily think I agree with, but I'm just like introducing it as an idea of like, well, whether you're constituted as black or a real black person, the extent to which that should be influenced by your political beliefs is a bit of a nebulous realm. It's a little bit nebulous.
In this crooked game of power politics here in America, the Negro, namely the race problem, integration, civil rights issue, are all nothing but tools used by the whites who call themselves liberals against another group of whites who call themselves conservatives, either to get into power or to retain power. The white liberal differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful, more hypocritical than the conservative. The American Negro is nothing but a political football, and the white liberals control this ball through tricks or tokenism, false promises of integration and civil rights.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
I love it when a white man takes away one's black card for not voting in the way that he wants you to. So, the first person that we're going to be talking about now for the exemplary position of a black conservative is the, by now, very famous and notorious, infamous Candace Owens.
And I could put Candace Owens up there, but I even think somebody owns it more than Candace. I think Candace go up there though, because Candace been Barkley, Jesse Lee Peterson, Supreme Court Justice Thomas, Candace Owens, and my fifth one, I know it's somebody I'm leaving out. Damn.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about Candace Owens. I don't know much about anything. No. I know that she's a pretty famous American conservative. She was with the Daily Wire and now isn't. We're going to talk about that in a second. The thing that I saw most recently from her is like the interview that she did with Andrew Tate, where she basically like didn't press him on anything, which is like, oh, is there something to be said about her journalistic integrity? Maybe. But yeah, I guess she's known for saying, by some people's standards, some fairly outlandish things. By my standards, sometimes even included. Sometimes she can say some pretty head-ass stuff, where sometimes it's like, do you really believe that, or are you just saying it to, like, say shit?
Dinosaurs, that seems pretty fake and gay.
The biggest reason why she probably gets labeled the kind of, like, race traitor label, or, like, the label, so to speak, is most pronounced because of her coverage of what happened with George Floyd.
What I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was leading up to this moment, and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person is a martyr or should be lifted up in the Black community, and that we should be buying t-shirts with his name on it, okay? 1998, he spent 10 months in prison for theft with a firearm. That was the first prison stint that I could find on him. In 2002, he spent 8 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2004, just 2 years later, he spent another 10 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2007, and this was the biggest instant that I had that made me realize this was a horrible human being that I am not going to pretend was a good person. In 2005, a woman who was pregnant received a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and the person pretended to be someone that worked for the water department. So she opened her door and quickly realized that the person at her door did not work for the water department, and attempted to slam it. At the moment that she was attempting to slam it, a Ford pulled up and another 5 men jumped out of the car, and one of which was George Floyd, came up to the door, and they forced their way inside to her home, inside of her home. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. At that point, George Floyd took out a gun and pressed it to her stomach. She was screaming, begging for her life, and he put her inside of her living room and instructed one of his criminal friends that was with him to watch her and to make sure she didn't leave the living room. So he was playing guard while they ransacked her home looking for drugs and money. They did not find drugs. They ended up taking, I believe, her wallet and her cell phone. Fortunately for her, her neighbor observed what was going on and caught the license plate of the people as they pulled off and called 911. And when 911 was able to, they were able to track down the car of which George Floyd was the driver, and they arrested him. And 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for that instance.
So yeah, seemingly Candace Owens was against the narrative that was being generated for George Floyd, let's say, and then even went on to create a whole documentary, which I've obviously not seen, but I've seen the trailer of, and you know, it doesn't seem like she's speaking the most favorably, and it seems like other people may have that too. And you know, insofar that you consider George Floyd to be a kind of like symbol of Black people being oppressed, her putting this forward, I'm sure by many people's standards, are like, you know, throw away the black card, you know, this is a symbol to us and you're ruining him, tarnishing him, although obviously by Candace Owens' perspective, let's say, you know, she thinks she's doing the good thing.
You guys knew him best, so who was George Floyd?
A lot of other things to be taking into consideration. If we're going by Doctor Umar's standard of as maximally pro-black as one can be, you know, not getting with the whites, not sleeping with the oppressor, her husband is a Caucasian. And then there's also kind of like stories that she's spoken about where she's kind of had like run-ins when she was younger with, my impression would be Black women, but maybe it's Black people in general, where like they essentially chastised her for being not Black enough. And it kind of seems like she's still, there's a part of her that still feels a little bit tight about it. A little bit.
And the reason I go after them is because I do believe that these women, for example, Cardi B, are contributing to the corrosion of society. Very much bullied by Black women for no reason. I never had any drama, never said anything to them, but I talked about this frequently in the past, but also in my book, I described how for being smart, there was like a crime for being smart. And I've spoken about how this girl sort of made fun of me in the lunchroom, how she called me over to the lunch table and in front of this whole table of Black girls that were in her classroom, made fun of me for not knowing the lyrics to a rap song, considered my relationship with Black women over the years of my schooling. And I realized that much of that behavior
of not liking me because of this invisible social contract. Candace does not act black enough. Candace speaks proper English. Candace, I don't know, likes books and isn't partaking enough in hip hop culture. It still exists.
I think the other thing then to take into consideration is because usually when people get labeled to being as a or race traitor, it's usually because they do something that is to the detriment of black people and the benefit of white people, or, you know, their paycheck comes from white people. They're speaking to white people particularly, and they're like selling out their own people, so to speak, selling out their own beliefs. You know, they're tap dancing against their actual wants, let's say. So based on that, I think it's important to take into account that, as far as I can tell, Candace Owens isn't necessarily the kind of person to dance for money, particularly from the white man, willy-nilly, because pretty famously within the past year or so, she like left the Daily Wire, you know, that conservative, you know, Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and whatever, and they've tried to keep it pretty stum of why that is, but it seems pretty obvious that there were editorial disagreements, let's say, between them.
Was she fired, or did she leave of her own volition?
I'm not going to speak to this topic, Pierce.
At all?
At all.
And that seems to be because, you know, Daily Wire, or moreover, almost paramountly, Ben Shapiro is like pretty pro-Israel or whatever, and it seems that Candace is like, well, maybe Israel aren't necessarily the good guys.
When you hear these people in your government saying this, you should know how fraudulent they are, because they all are taking money from Israel. A country should not be able to lobby to get what they want and control our congressmen. They go, oh, well, you're focusing on it because they're Jewish. No, you're just the only country that's allowed to do it. There's no other country that's allowed to do this but Israel. AIPAC is the only American Israel PAC, whatever it is, that's allowed to spend $100 million in our elections and not be called names.
To me, that conveys that there is a standing on business, you know, standing up for her beliefs, and, you know, even though presumably she was like contractually obligated, she, you know, ducked out of it and then started her own thing, which I think conveys a certain level of individuality and not dancing to the beat of the drum of other people, and those other people being whites, particularly because that's what she's kind of like tarred and feathered with sometimes. I think sometimes, though, she does still kind of go a bit hard in the paint with disparaging black. It's kind of tricky because, again, like, she thinks that she's doing the right thing, but I do think that maybe she still does kind of have some hang-ups with black people. I don't know. She's certainly not Jessie Lee Peterson. I don't know if I could wholeheartedly say that she's in the neutral zone either. So she might be in the D tier for now, based on these examples I have. I was also then going to follow up, because, you know, to have a category and then only have one person in there is a bit techie. I was going to put Thomas Sowell in there, but again, he definitely is somebody that I don't feel qualified to talk about. I've seen bits here and there. I'm going to bypass him. If you don't know who Thomas Sowell is, pretty prominent in black economist, and he's one of the people that are in the thumbnail to that, you know, black people can't be conservatives thumbnail from FD Signifier, who we'll talk about later. So I'm going to skip past that for now. The other person that came into mind was Amala Ekpanobi. I think that's how it's pronounced. She's one of these people that once upon a time was on PragerU. PragerU is definitely a conservative thing, but then whenever I've seen her, I don't necessarily pick up on like overt conservative vibes, maybe in the same way that like I don't necessarily get that if and when I've seen like Brett Cooper, for instance. You know, sometimes I'll talk about things like family values, but like, spoilers, family values isn't a exclusively white thing, and to some of the, like, the super left people that are like, family values is a dog whistle for, bro, get off of fucking Twitter or whatever. Oh, you're not on Twitter anymore because Elon Musk's naughty or whatever. I don't know, get off fucking TikTok or whatever, bitch. Now we're going to move on to the category of white fetishizers, and before I get into talking about the particular people of this one's an interesting topic for me, partially because, like, by some standards, to fetishize white people is actually a pretty black thing to do. It's certainly not politically black or like pro-black, again based on, say, like a Doctor Umar kind of person.
I'm against the snow bunny crisis.
But I met with some relatives over the Christmas time, and there was a point in conversation where one of them, you know, it's 5 geezers around a table, so what the fuck else are they going to talk about apart from women and being fucking horny perpetually? Somebody threw in to the group like a fucking grenade. It wasn't a grenade. Somebody threw into the group the question of, oh, what kind of girls do you like? And my fucking dumb autistic ass was talking about, or like in my head, like, what do you mean? Like, personality traits? Like, what do you value? Like, how funny they are, or intelligent they are, or how curious they are as a person? And then, of course not. They're talking about appearance, but more specifically than appearance, they're talking about like color, and that was kind of bizarre to me because there was kind of like this undertone of like, bear in mind we're all black there, but there's this undertone of like, ooh, I don't date black women. Like one of them was seemingly like in a fairly like virtuously pronounced way of like, ooh, I don't date anybody that's darker than me, and it's like, bro, you're. In my head, I'm like, you're moving fucking mad, bro. And then later on in the conversation, they were talking about like, oh, do you remember that time that we went to such and such club? And another one responded of like, oh, there's bear snow buddies there. Oh, I should probably qualify that in case you're American. Bear means a lot of. So when he said there's bear snow bunnies there, he was saying there is a substantial amount of white women there, and that's good. Once upon a time, this was particularly more prominent with black men, you know, the fetishization of the whites, particularly white women. Though recently there also does seem to be an influx of black women doing it with white men, so it's all free game.
Let me be really frank with you guys. I prefer white men. Oh my God. A melanated person is saying what the obvious is. I mean, like, look at all the races. Look at all the ethnicities. Look at all of them. Who is the man that is actually most coveted? It's not the black man. Okay, like, can we please, like, that is why Jesus is white. That is why Tarzan is white.
So, I'm going to pair these up into the same grouping, but the first people that I want to talk about is Kodak Black and a rapper by the name of Glock 9. I don't really know who Glock 9 is, I'm gonna keep it a bean, but I did come across this clip and so I thought that can go in the video. Kodak Black I'm slightly more familiar with, but even, you know, by quite a small margin. Again, also on the XXL Cypher from 2016.
Who the fuck picked this little sorry ass beat?
I also know him from this meme.
I was picking her brain and stuff.
So for the first night ever, you talked to only one girl?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
I hope so.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I know him from is this clip. I don't particularly listen to Kodak Black at all, but yeah, as I said, anyway, this clip.
Average dude, because I don't see myself no better than him, no better than him, you know, or no less than him. So if he could say that he likes skinny women, if he prefers skinny women more than a more chubby or heavyset women, he could say that and nobody won't get mad at him. I just said I don't like women with my complexion. I like light-skinned women. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African-American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion.
Okay, well, I like your skin complexion.
We too gutter. Black people, my complexion, we too gutter. Light-skinned women, they more sensitive, you know?
There's some dark-skinned women out here sensitive.
No, they too tough. They too tough. Light-skinned women, we can break them down more easily.
Holy moly, we can break him down more easily. Hey, yo. He did pretty explicitly say in that clip that he doesn't even like his own skin complexion, so ostensibly the part of the reason as to why he only wants to go with light-skinned women, partially I guess is maybe an aesthetic reason. Maybe he likes them more, and then obviously, like, I guess his offspring would be lighter than him, and then he wouldn't have to look at them with the same disdain that he ostensibly has for his own skin complexion. But then also toward the end there, the clip cut off for me, but maybe I'll find a longer length version for you. He was like, oh, black women are too tough, which seemingly is like I don't know, ones are more potentially controllable or whatever. I don't know. I'm going to show the other clip now because, as I say, this is a bit of a toother.
Remember there was the whole Kodak thing about how he prefers light-skinned girls? Because I
broke up with
he was saying how light-skinned girls are easier to control, I guess. Something like that. Are you on that?
I ain't gonna lie. What'd he say? I'm already black. I don't need no black bitch.
Right, that's what he said.
So yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I can't have no cut. Like, I know if I'm fucking with you, I'm black as fuck, right? I'm black as shit.
Yeah, black is beautiful though, man.
So I know if I fuck with a black bitch, we gonna have a black ass baby.
So?
I ain't with that.
Why?
Cause I'm already black as fuck.
So?
I can't. No.
In my most good faith interpretation of this, is that maybe this isn't necessarily their beliefs. It's kind of like, you know, the system that indoctrinated them, man, and, you know, colorism and all being lighter good, being darker bad. With that being said, what am I going to do for it? Like every time it's like, oh, like be forgiving of like, oh, this is actually, oh, it's not their thoughts, it's just the system. At some point you got to take responsibility for your own beliefs rather than outsourcing them to society. It's like, is it the voice in your head or is it just your own voice, you know? Either way, there seems to be this kind of like, particularly like anti-black women and certainly anti-dark-skinned offspring. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, bro. It seems pretty anti-black to me. And again, oh, who are you to say that with your little British accent and whatnot? I can, you know, I'm just calling a spade at the end of the day. I'm just calling a spade. D-tier. The next example of a person that is prospectively a white fetishizer is Doja Cat. And this, I suppose, is a consequence of people putting two and two together, because people seem to be like, ooh, Doja Cat only dates white men.
But fast forward from 2022, and I am yet to see Doja with one man of color, or heck, even a woman of color. It's been from one white man to the other.
And then there's also her saying that, like, one of her kinks is being stepped on, which kind of lends itself to a kind of, like, degradation play, or, like, race play, if you say. It's kind of like, oh, want the white man to step on me because that make me feel inferior, and that scratches a particular itch in my psyche.
The freakiest thing about me? You don't want to ask me. I'm canceled. That's all I'm saying. The freakiest thing, I like to be stepped on.
Stepped on? Is it a foot thing?
It's not a foot thing.
Is it a shoe thing?
It's like a power thing.
No, I don't necessarily care what people do in the comfort of their own homes, what they do with their sexual proclivities. I, for instance, like and I suspect there is a kind of person that would find this problematic, the idea of like liking the idea of being stepped on by the white man, you know. It'd be interesting to see how like the kind of supposed sex positive crowd rubs up against the like people that are oppression and blah blah, because it's like, well, if you're sex positive, how wide is the window for sex positivity? If it comes to the stuff of like people liking being racially degraded during sex, is that sex positive, or does that rub against like their other? Because I feel like ultimately these are going to be like left-leaning people that are like both sex positive and talking about like systemic racism and stuff. So is there a conversation to be had about sex positivity and whatever? There was also controversy a few years ago when some songs resurfaced. I hate when people, like news outlets, use the term like resurfaced. It's like, oh, somebody posted about it on a social media and now you're making headlines about it. Anyway, she had a lyric, or a song rather, called Didn't Do Nothing, which is seemingly a slur pertaining to like black people that proclaim, you know, when they have run-ins with the law, for instance, that I didn't do anything. Didn't do nothing. Sir, I didn't do nothing. You get it. Supposedly she was using that ironically, and, you know, she came out and apologized for it and stuff like that.
That song is in zero ways, in no way connected to police brutality or Sandra Bland.
But then also, it also came out that she was like hanging out in like alt-right chat rooms and being like kind of strange.
Sorry, would you feed a tube into my ass with a funnel at the end and pour all types of liquor down there?
Speaking of desensitized gag reflexes, my loose lady of the night, Doja. So easy and loose. Let's go to the inn. And only two stories.
Yes, Daddy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Her shirt reminds me of a baby duck. Her shirt is like a...
Oh my God.
I don't know, bro. She was young at the time, and there's more recent stuff that you could say, like, I don't know, puts her more on the side of pro-black. There was a moment at a concert, for instance, where, like, she was like, oh, white people don't say the N-word. But, I don't know, it's a little bit suspicious. Is there an internalized racism thing there? I don't know. I can't say what's in people's heart, but the hanging out in like alt-right chat rooms part, D-tier. Before the category of people dancing for the white man, before the category of people making fools of others, we first have the category of people making fools of themselves. And so I have a couple of prospects. Two of them, I think, again, I'm going to put together. IShowSpeed and Kai Cenat.
I don't know who thinks and believes that I make content for kids, but you're dumb as shit if you think I'm making the content that I make is for me and other grown-ass niggas, bro. It's a me, nigga! It's a me, nigga! Let's go, boy! Peach is my bitch. That's my shorty. Where your bitch at? That's my shorty. No. That's my shorty. Oh, you have somebody already, gang. Wait, Chad, who is Luigi's girlfriend? Daisy! Is it Donkey Kong? Hold on, I'll be right back. Oh, yeah, Mario. Give me that nigga Mario dick. Oh, yeah, Mario. Oh!
I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about Kai Cenat or IShowSpeed, partially because I'm not a fucking teenager, bro, you know what I mean? Man's a grown man, you know? Okay, sometimes it's not necessarily obvious if people are laughing at these people or with them. I know I saw a clip of Kanye saying that Kai Cenat was an industry plant, which I think is kind of dumb, and also his credibility as in anything is kind of shot at this moment in time, so I'm not taking that into account that much. But I think, are people laughing at or are people laughing with?
Kai Cenat, that's some industry plant shit.
So he's an industry plant.
Of course, that exact genre is the most industry plant shit.
I saw the thumbnail for a YouTube video that I've still not watched, because why would I care for another person's opinion? Banter. That was, I think it was talking about like digital minstrelsy or something, and it had IShowSpeed on the thumbnail, so I'm going to take that to mean, well, somewhere a conversation is being had about him being some kind of like sellout for making a fool of himself, and by extension of him being black, making a fool out of black people.
Last year, you couldn't go 3 seconds without watching Speed create new ways to virtually assault women, or Kai recreating Cambodia for a prank. The more and more viral clips these men have, the higher their overall internet coverage is, and the more people their streams get. I call this the black clown method.
There was also the thing of like, didn't he like recently went to an Asian country or whatever and said the N-word song, you know, in a certain language is something else, it's like a hook in a certain song or whatever, so they were, oh guys, isn't this funny? And it's like, haha, they don't realize they're saying a racial slur, and that was like live stream. And it's like, how much of their audience breakdown is black versus white, and how many of the white people are laughing at that, being like, haha, Asians are saying the nigger word? It's a little bit suspicious. But again, I don't feel like I have enough information to adequately rank them on whether they're pro-black or anti-black or not. I just know that they're involved in the conversation, so I thought, may as well mention them, but for now I'm gonna slip them off to the side. Next, we have Drake, which I'm sure everybody at this point is familiar with. They've seen his corpse pulled around town for a year. Stop hitting him, he's already dead. This year marks the 1-year anniversary of Kendrick taking away, at the very least, his cultural black card.
No, you're not a colleague, you're a fucking colonizer.
I think the thing that potentially makes him more liable to be considered a race traitor, if you will, is that very infamous photo of him in blackface, which I'm not going to explain to you at this moment in time. Instead, I'll have Pusha T do it for you instead.
I get the picture of the actual photo that I used
of the blackface.
Of the blackface.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it makes sense. You parade your dad around. This is done in 2008. This was done in 2008. You don't even know that that's not right. That you, like, there's no explanation for that to me. You are silent in all black issues, Drake. You really are. You are really, really silent. I don't hear about anything. You don't stand for nothing. You don't say nothing about nothing. You don't. That's just what it is. That's why it's okay. That's why it's okay for you to take a photo like this. You didn't even know it was right. You don't even know how fully. You don't know where you stand at. Mm-hmm. You don't know where you stand at.
Black people doing blackface. He may not be a Jesse Lee Peterson, but that's pretty egregious D-tier. And now we have Dave Chappelle. Would I go as far as to say that Dave Chappelle is the most famous comedian in the world that's still living? He's certainly top 3. comedian, sometimes an actor. This is not a video on Dave Chappelle. I'm sure if I wanted to, I could probably do a compilation of like all of the things that he has said that are pro-black, but you know, this is vibes. It's going off vibes. You know, I've seen enough Dave Chappelle specials to know that I know in my soul that he is pro-black and him speaking on certain things. You know, in contrast to the Candace Owens slander of George Floyd, Dave Chappelle kind of shat on her a lot of it. And so at the very least, in terms of the symbolism that George Floyd had a lot for a lot of black people, Dave Chappelle kind of reinforced that further. He put out a thing, like a free special. It certainly wasn't stand-up, although there were some jokes in there.
This man kneeled on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I think Candace Owens tried to convince white America, don't worry about it, he's a criminal anyway. The
most important thing about Dave Chappelle for me is that he very famously walked away from like $50 million from Comedy Central to do another season of Chappelle Show. And I haven't Googled this, but my suspicion is that Comedy Central is owned by the whites, and so that's most certainly a kind of not tap dancing for the whites, even though they want you to, let's say.
And then my wife's still a little salty at me.
She's not happy with you right now?
I mean, she's not mad at me, but don't think you're gonna walk away from $50 million and your wife's just gonna be cool with it.
And then on top of that, I feel like I've seen him talk about in interviews that he wasn't sure if he or his characters were being laughed at or laughed with, because there are some characters that, you know, don't necessarily paint black people in a great light, but then again, it's like, it's a character. This is not supposed to be exemplary of black people as a whole, but again, if your frame of reference for black people, you don't really have one, and then you watch a thing like Chappelle Show or certain sketches of it, maybe you would think like, oh, so that's what those blacks are like. And so I think at that point he had a little bit of a moral consideration where it was like, well, until I feel certain about how these characters that I'm portraying are being perceived, I don't necessarily want to do it at this moment in time, which is why, or part of the reason why he walked away and then was famously slandered or like purported as going crazy because he like left the country somewhat abruptly.
But then it was like, it just got out of control. Like I was in Africa, and next thing I know, I started hearing all the stories like comedian Dave Chappelle's in a mental institution in South Africa. And I was like, man, I must be losing my mind.
Yeah.
Because I thought this was the beach.
Certainly not tap dancing for the whites. Pretty pro-black, open and shut case. Moving on. Then there's also a kind of category for a kind of person that takes it upon themselves to make a fool of black people, even if they themselves are not the ones doing it, let's say. So now I want to talk about Drewski. Drewski is an interesting character, comedian, presenter, has various shows on the internet, and interesting friends, and, you know, pretty well-connected guy. He has a parody of a talent show called Coulda Been or Coulda Been Records.
Coulda Been Records. We in Memphis, baby. Back for a new season of auditions.
Hey, this ain't fighting without me being involved.
Where he invites a disproportionately more black people than not to audition to be a part of his kind of label or whatever.
Quick batch of young. What's the youngest here?
My man's Killer.
Caleb?
Killer.
Oh, Killer.
Yeah, man.
All right. What's that again? What's that? You
stand over him.
Oh, okay. All right. How old are you?
14.
14. What'd they call you? Murder?
That's bro over here.
Oh, that's his name.
Bro right there. I'm Murder. Man. Murder.
Oh, okay. How you doing, my G?
What's up, Drewski?
What brings you here?
Share opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Can you spell opportunity?
OPP.
Let's get him the out of here. I need Reading Rainbow. How the you want opportunity but can't spell it?
All right, bro. All right.
Said OPP. That nigga, all that nigga know is ops.
It's a little bit techie, because if there was a white guy in this chair judging black people and their talent and just kicking them out for no reason here, there, and everywhere, I feel like people would take an issue with it, but given that he's black, it's fine and funny.
Yeah, bloated, get him the fuck out of here. Next, come on.
Hey, boss.
Yeah. Look like she's into the earth. Get her the fuck out of here.
Come on, baby.
Yeah. Into earth. Next.
What up, though?
Stud. Wearing Gucci. We don't wear Gucci no more.
You don't like Gucci?
Appreciate that, mama. Yeah, we off that. Next. You need a fucking haircut. Get him the fuck out of here. Yep. Appreciate that, man.
Maybe one of the more contentious things is that he like pretty consistently lets non-black people say the nigger word.
Yeah, go ahead. Drop a freestyle,
Drop a
bro.
freestyle? Drop
Yeah.
Bitch, I'm in the pain. I be throwing shots so simple, kinda like it's Minute Maid. Shit and all you niggas made a mess. Now you need a maid. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Y'all be looking mad as at me, but bitch, I'm getting paid. Y'all should make a change.
Hey, let's draw the line.
Seems like y'all ain't really making change.
Hey, let's draw the line, player. You're not about to be saying nigga.
For real? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Hold the fuck up on the nigga word.
Got you, sir. For sure.
Y'all all say
Nah, just like...
He said it. Oh, he said it too. Yeah.
He be saying me and him. He be saying
Well, he say nigga too.
For sure, bro. For sure, but... Come on.
F it. I think Latinos, y'all deserve the right to say nigga.
For real.
Yeah, you right. You say it. I want to hear you say it. Say nigga one time.
But you don't get no talent out of that, bro. Like,
fuck you mean, nigga?
Fuck you mean, nigga? Like, what the fuck?
Oh.
What's wrong with you?
I like the way you say it. See, you say it in a black kind of tense. That's it.
It kills their soul when they see a young nigga succeeding. They hit
Whoa. They see a young what?
When they see a young brother succeeding.
You don't got 2% Jamaican in you, do you?
I don't, but Cuban, Puerto Rican, Honduran. Out here in Miami, that word is used.
You can use it. Fuck it.
All right.
You know, yeah.
Today I woke
be
up-
letting Latinos
All
use that shit. I ain't gonna lie.
At this point, one may make the argument that, you know, this is pretty anti-black behavior. But then I saw like the clouds parting in the sky and the sun bursting from the heavens. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Broski's seemingly cool with Doctor Umar. Doctor Umar's been on the show, you know, and so if it's good enough for Doctor Umar, it's good enough for me, you know what I mean? Beta.
Stop thirsting for the white vagina.
Hey, there's some good white pink out here, man. I'm trying to convince you on it.
I need you to deal with the consciousness, Drewski. Stay with me.
Next, we have the creator of The Boondocks. I'm going to be honest, I haven't particularly watched The Boondocks. I didn't particularly grow up with it. I was aware of its existence. I saw a few clips here and there. And I'm going to keep it a bean. The ones that I saw, again, didn't necessarily paint black people in the best light. Off the top of my head, the one that I recall seeing was the concept of a nigger moment.
Watch where you walking, nigga. Hey, what you say, nigga?
Watch closely. You're about to experience a nigger
It's
moment.
essentially when two African Americans, it's when they get into a bit of an altercation and they kind of lose their cool, they get aggressive pretty quickly, is essentially what the joke is, and start getting violent with one another, and that's considered a nigger moment. The quintessential moment of being a nigger is having a short fuse and being violent, essentially, based on the narrator of the show. The actual reason why he finds himself in this video, however, is because of this clip that I stumbled upon where he's talking about, you know what, let me just play it for you.
I really want you guys to understand that time is running out. And a lot of black people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You're approaching a country that, forget hating black people or not hating black people, they just don't care. You can be talking about affirmative action, they can be like, I don't care. It literally is of no importance to me. I don't care about slavery, I don't care about segregation, I don't care about you, I don't care how many of you all go to jail, I don't care at all, because I'm broke. You can't be the proud, noble fighter when every single time someone sees a person that looks like you on television, they're acting like a damn fool. How would they know? How would they know you're not a damn fool?
Justifying prejudice, very cool. You know, once upon a time when as I said, I don't particularly have a frame of reference for the Boondocks. I thought or was aware it did seem to be a show that like black people liked. Now though, it isn't obvious to me that that show was necessarily made from a place of love or like to portray black people poorly. Like I remember, I feel like, well, I don't know where I saw this. Maybe it was like on fucking Tumblr or like somebody screenshotted a Tumblr because I don't use Tumblr, bro. Man's a grown adult. Somebody I think had the comment, I think it was like maybe a white woman is what I could deduce from the text, and they were talking about how like, oh, I've tried watching the Boondocks, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be like laughing at them or with them or something like that. For one reason or another, they couldn't bear to watch it because it's like, oh, were these people being made fun of? Or so what did he say in the video? Black people have used up moral currency. Every time they're on TV, they're kind of like acting like a damn fool, I think he said, which is quite disparaging, I would say. Again, I don't know much about this guy. I've seen bits of the Boondocks, I've seen this clip, but with that in mind, I think I'm going to have to go with D tier. Now we have I guess a small snippet for YouTubers. I came across a channel called Love Hilal. I think that's not how it's pronounced. Let me just read some things for you off my 2013 MacBook, my over a decade old MacBook. So he has a video with the title called, and this maybe was the first one that tipped me off, The Problem with Ghetto Blacks.
I'm gonna be the one to say it. Black people are known for violence, crashing out, shaking butt, and downright degenerate behavior. We are the only ones with our negative qualities to be at the forefront and representation of our community.
So if you're on YouTube, you know that you can go over to the video tab and sort, rather than it being chronological order, sorting it by popularity, sorting it by the most viewed. And so I did that, and it does seem a pretty substantial amount of the most popular videos that this guy has made are in some way disparaging against black people, and the reason why he's on the list is because I don't think that the core audience for these videos is going to be black people. Obviously there are going to be some people in the comments that are black people and being like, oh, I agree, and things of that nature. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's tricky, because it's one of those where in the event that there are problems emanating from a group, it's best if a member of the group brings them up, but then you risk people from other groups, the whites, being like, yeah, that's what we've been saying. And when you have a title, for instance, like The Problem with Ghetto Blacks, it's like, what kind of audience do you think that's going to lure in? And then you have other videos with the titles, such as The Problem with the Black Community, The Rise of Racist Black People, The Problem with Ghetto Black People, Everything That Ruined Black Culture in 2024, and then some other videos that he has that aren't necessarily falling within the most popular. As I said, those were literally within the top 8. There are other ones. Everything Wrong with Young... Oh my fucking God. Everything Wrong with Young Blacks Today. There's something about people that don't say black people and say blacks. Why Being Black Sucks. The Invasion of Rage-Baiting Blacks. My guy, you may actually qualify as a rage-baiting black. What are we talking about? I've seen bits of this guy's videos, and admittedly they are kind of tongue-in-cheek. I don't think they're supposed to be taken super seriously. I just think, optics-wise, when 3 out of the 4 of your most popular videos are in some way disparaging black people, and again, black people make up 13-14% of the US. I can't imagine that the majority of people watching the video are primarily black with black people's best interests in mind, like looking to, yeah, we do need to have a conversation about this actually. I think it's kind of an excuse to be like, well, I'm not listening to it from a white guy. It's not a white guy talking ill of black people. It's, oh, he's one of the good ones. He's one of the good ones. Oh, he just says what I think he does. He just says... It's a bit techie. Optics-wise, it's certainly not neutral. It seems quite disparaging, even if it is meant to be taken in humour. I get that there are jokes, but sometimes jokes are truthful. Or, you know, convey the truth of what somebody actually feels. So, certainly not neutral. Certainly not Jesse Lee Peterson either, though. So on that basis, D tier. Next we have ABBA and Preach, which this is going to be a pretty short section because honestly the only reason that these people have made it into this video for consideration is that FD Signifier called ABBA a I'm not necessarily sure what the reason for that is. If I were to hazard a guess, I would imagine it's maybe because on their channel they do commentary videos on videos, in part on videos that don't necessarily show black people in the best light. Although I would say, with that being said, given that they're a commentary channel, they don't necessarily show videos of most people in the best light. I would say that they're an equal opportunity disparager, because I certainly wouldn't say that the majority of case studies, so to speak, that they talk about are black. You know, at this moment in time, I'm feeling either C or B tier. I feel like they're kind of agnostic about the whole, like, whether you're pro-black or not in terms of, like, perception. I think they have their beliefs and, you know, pretty sizable chunk of their audience is black, I get the impression of. Anyway, I'm just going to throw them in C tier. Moving on. Next, we have Andrew Tate. This guy makes me sad. This is a pretty weird guy, both on and off the list, if I'm honest. This is one of those manosphere. It's not even one of those manosphere guys. He may be the manosphere guy, you know.
Don't be afraid of manipulation because someone's going to do it.
I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money. That's what I wanted. Every single Bond girl was exploited. That's exactly what I do.
The Giga Chad of Giga Chads. If you were a real Giga Chad, you'd be able to grow hair still. You know, in some ways, Andrew Tate seems to be, I don't know about proud, but certainly celebratory of his black heritage, let's say. Although the ways in which he's pretty cool about it is pretty strange, if I'm honest. Like, there was a moment, he was having like a podcast with fucking DJ Academics, who's also a fucking loser. That's not about, this video isn't about that though. There was a point where I was like, oh, wait, you're black? And it's like, of course I'm black. Let me just play the clip.
That's black? Yeah. I know I don't really look it, but my what the fuck is your... Listen. Yo,
is this shit real?
Yeah. So my dad's dad was black. You're not black? My dad's dad was black. My dad's mother was half black. My mother's white Irish, so I'm like a third. So I got just enough. I can drink the Henny. You're technically black, then. Bro, I got the hands. Like, I've got, don't worry, I got the...
Of course I'm black, DJ Academics. Can you not tell by my proclivity for violence? I've got them hands on me, DJ Academics. You fucking piece of shit. I think the most egregious thing, though, and why this is another pretty short section, pretty open and shut case, is because somebody made a video talking about like all the benefits and like how cool it is to be in Romania. I think specifically maybe a European city, but I'll, you know, show a bit of the video for context.
I'm in a random town in Romania. And look at this. Overnight, the businesses, they leave their tables and chairs outside and nobody steals them. If you were in the US and you left your tables, and look, every business does it. If you left your tables and chairs outside without a massive chain on them, they would be stolen and then scrapped and you would never see it again.
And so then after that, you know, there was the question posed of like, whoa, why is it like this? Why does this happen to be the case? Why is it so good here? And then Andrew Tate responded by saying, simple explanation, there's no blacks in Romania. E tier, baby boys and girls. We have one more section remaining that I have dubbed Dancing for the White Man. However, before getting into that, I just want to give a shout out to the motherfucking Patreons. I'm in front of a green screen. Hopefully that comes up pretty well. What is space and time? Thank you for supporting the kid. Very much appreciated. If you would like to join these people and have your name immortalized in the making of history, then you can do so by joining the Patreon. Also, whilst we're in this little intermission break, if you've been enjoying the video so far, then please drop a like on the video, drop a comment down below, even if it's for the algorithm, although I do a pretty good job of responding to comments. So if you leave a comment, you'll probably get a response. Oh, I've started a Substack if you want to check that out. It's going to be different from the kind of stuff I talk about here. So now we have final category called Dancing for the White Man, which I don't even really need to introduce, partially because it's self-explanatory, but then partially because I have young Vince Staples talking about dancing for the white man by the way of freestyling for the white man. You'll get it by the end of the clip, baby boy.
I ain't doing nothing Michael Jackson ain't do. They ain't ask me no question. Taylor Swift ain't do. I ain't freestyling. I ain't do none of that bullshit. That shit so wanna read to me like, hey, my nigga, so you clearly up here for a reason, but I still need a 16. Like, if you don't get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, cuz.
You out here promoting the album, but I want a 16.
Hey, you got an album, right? We got 12 songs that you trying to eat off of, but my nigga, I need a freestyle. Get the fuck out of here, nigga. You rap, cuz. I'm not finna be sitting there rapping for no white man for no hour, man. That's the auction block.
In that clip, I suppose there's this kind of like, beyond mere apathy, a disdain for having to entertain the whites. Not in general, but I think particularly when it's like under their rule, under their say-so, let's say, as though he's being like trotted out like, and now for tonight's entertainment. There's also this other clip that I stumbled upon that I feel inclined to show you.
I don't want to be listening like when he's just talking about. I just be getting mad.
What do you hate hearing talk about?
Just bullshit. Like, shit that don't mean nothing. Like, it's funny. Like, I be getting the most random messages from the most square niggas. Like, hey, bro, you need to get back to that gangster shit. Like, if you don't shut your bitch ass up, like, what do that even mean? You know what I'm saying?
They want you to talk about busting them guns,
yeah,
man.
Hey, why you ain't killing on this album, man? I'm not fucking with it. It's like, I be over that, bro, just because that shit is so draining, man.
Absolutely.
From my day-to-day, man, that shit's trash.
So it's people that's not about that life hitting you up.
Nobody's about that life for the most part. For black people in general, cuz we sell trauma. Every hot movie, every TV show, 12 Years a Slave, Nat Turner movie, Django, Moonlight. Let's keep it going. We can all name one right now. For black people, the black business is trauma. That's what we got. Keeping Up with the Kardashians, all these other shows, they having a good time. It's reality TV just chilling. We can't even have reality TV where niggas ain't trying to squabble. We selling trauma.
So initially I came across this clip, which I think is quite interesting, because originally it's labeled as Vince Staples hate black people. First of all, not even grammatically correct. However, I don't think that what we just bore witness to at all conveys that he hates black people. I think it's more so like certain preoccupations that he's speaking to he like doesn't care for. The talking about bullshit, and then the black people's place within, I suppose, the entertainment industry, like as he spoke to, it seems like black people sell trauma is his opinion, perspective, which if anything, I don't think that at all remotely suggests that he hates black people. Moreover, that he wants better for them, I would say, or at least different, you know? Everybody else gets to have a good time. Why can't black people just have a good time? Why is it all got to be trauma-based? Why is it all got to be drama-based? You know, I think it's a thing of him wanting better for black people. I don't remotely think that it's evidence of Vince Staples hate black people. I think it's Vince Staples wants better for black people. I feel like I saw an episode of his TV show, and I may be misremembering this, but I feel like part of the premise of one of the episodes is that he wanted to make like healthy alternatives for cereals, and maybe there was something to do with like black-owned business and whatever and stuff, and obviously that's a fictionalized version of his character, but I suspect that that is an ideal that he himself holds. Wants better for them, wants to see them prosper, you know, doesn't just want this kind of struggle porn, so to speak. So based on that, I'm gonna give young Vince Staples A tier. Next we have another rapper, my favorite one, actually, Tyler, the Creator.
Who are you? Tyler, the Creator. Also known as Thick Dick Daddy 27.
Tyler, the Creator, ostensibly started out as one of the kind of like weird kids, or like, you know, the weird black people, the alt black people, you know, but has slowly been ingratiated into black culture, into the black community over time, I would say.
They used to call me white boy and shit, and I hated that shit. Like, why can't I just be a fucking human?
People don't know what that shit does for like some 12-year-old dark-skinned kid when they're just being curious and someone that look like them says, you not us, because you doing that, or don't do that, or you not us.
So we see, I suppose, direct mentions of political black stuff from Tyler. On Flower Boy, for instance, he said,
how many slaves can it be till Nat Turner will rise? How many riots can it be until Black Lives Matter?
Ooh, a mention of Black Lives Matter. Does that mean he's on board with them? Maybe, probably, who knows? And then later on, however, on there's a song wherein he says, or rather begins,
little white bitch gonna say, you need to say something about that. You need to say something about black. Bitch, suck my...
I don't think that's necessarily a indictment on Black Lives Matter, or black anything for that matter. I think it's more so this kind of like white people pressurizing him to be a certain way, or maybe people in general. There does seem to be a kind of pressure for black people to champion certain causes, and even in the event that he's on board with certain causes, which he may or may not be, it's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. I'ma do what I'ma do. I'ma say what I'm gonna say. One thing that I would like to bring to your attention regarding Tyler the Creator and his beliefs around representation is this clip regarding his now not on air TV show called The Jellies, wherein it has the main character called Cornell. Originally he started off as white, and then when it made it onto the television he was retconned, I suppose, to be black. And here is an audience interaction, and here is Tyler's response that follows.
Why is Cornell black now?
Okay, hold the fuck up.
That's a good question. That's why we should have started with that.
It's not your fault. It was like, why you make them black? Why can't have anything, man? No, don't clap. Hold on. How many fucking black cartoon characters is it on TV right now? I named 5. I'll give you time. So we don't have shit. So I said, fuck that. We about to make this black, and he ain't got no guns, he ain't shooting no fucking basketball, and he a fucking goober, and we gonna put him on TV. And he's the lead character. He ain't the comic relief, he ain't the sidekick, he the lead.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So, ostensibly, some pro-black things. On the other hand, some anti-black, if you go by Doctor Umar's version of pro-blackness, let's say. He has some lyrics. That was not as smooth as I wanted it to be. Next line will have him like, whoa, I've been kissing white boys since 2004.
Next line I have him like, whoa, I've been kissing white boys since 2004.
What does it mean if you're a black man that is into white boys? What are those called? Snow bunnies? Snow hares? And then later, boy, I need a Kleenex. How I got this far. Boy, I can't believe it. That I got this car.
Passenger white boy.
Tyler be simping for the white boys. Is that big of an issue, given that even if he were to try and procreate, it wouldn't work? Because I don't know if you know this, but if you put semen in the butthole, again, by Doctor Umar standards, you're sleeping with the enemy. And then also, Doctor Umar's low-key homophobic, and so probably wouldn't, even if Tyler were fucking other black men, probably wouldn't thumbs that up either.
I treat homosexuality and lesbianism as a mental disorder, which is what it has been for all of African history. And then you have homosexual supremacy. Okay, you're going to have to bend over and have sexual relations with a homosexual male to prove that you are still the white man's bitch.
So white supremacy and homosexuality is connected.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, Barack Obama was made president for 2 reasons. Domestically, he was made president to force alternative sexual lifestyles onto black children, sexual confusion as a means of population control.
However, on the topic of potentially procreating, creating another person, we have on the very last song of Tyler's most, to this point in time, last album, I Hope You Find Your Way Home. That is the track name, not the album. The album is called Chromacopia. He says, sent the motherfucking wire, did a backflip, and if I shoot the club up, it's a black bitch. Now, for the Caucasians watching, and just people in general that don't use kind of degenerate turns of phrases.
Sent the motherfucking wire, did a backflip, and if I shoot the club up, it's a black bitch.
To shoot someone's club up means to ejaculate inside of a woman. So what he's saying is, if I ever ejaculate in a woman, i.e. impregnate her, best believe it will be a black woman. So, I think that would do Dr. Umar proud. He's moving on up there in the tier list. Is there anything else to consider? One final thing. I'm so embarrassed, but happy that it happened. Fuck what you heard. I ain't tapping. There it is, folks. He says it right there and then. He told you he's not a bro.
I'm so embarrassed, but happy that it happened. Fuck what you heard. I ain't tapping.
And if he impregnates somebody, it's going to be a black broad. So, Tyler the Creator, A tier.
Suck my dick, white America.
And now we have some other content creators known as the Hodge twins. I think at one point they refer to themselves as the conservative twins. I'm not going to do much to introduce them. I'm just going to... They can introduce themselves.
Jesse Lee Peterson went on Dr. Phil's show. Let's check him out.
You said you believe white people should have more children?
We definitely need white babies. And I tremble at the idea that the white group is going down in numbers, because if you lose white folks, it's over for America. Because if you notice, white people tend to be more innovative. They're more creative. They have ideas about things. All these other races don't do nothing but destroy.
I said you'd piss off everybody. I was wrong. Now you've pissed off everybody.
When a white baby's born, majority of the time, they're going to be conservative. Am I right or wrong? It's 50-50. Okay, let's go with 50. When a nigga's born, what side? Statistic, 10%, it's going to be conservative.
What was interesting about that is they or someone else is putting out their own clips. This is their own channel, right? Even in writing the N-word, they ended it in ER. Not like, you know, some people would stipulate of like, how big of a deal is it? Hard R, that's the bad one. And that's in there intentionally. Somebody wrote this on, whatever, continuing.
90%, it's going to be back crazy liberal. That's one part he said about black people only destroy. I don't agree with that. That was too far right. Black people build too, usually after the white man has developed it. Look what they did to basketball. Yeah, look what they did to football. White man invented both them sports. Black people just made it better. Jesse Lee Peterson went on Dr.
There are certain instances where I'm like, do you guys not realize the color that you are? Again, this is an instance of like, they know what their base is. They know where their bread is buttered. You know what I mean? Who's paying the bills?
Since Bill Burr is trending again, I'll remind everyone why he's so miserable. I married a black woman once. I'd never do that again.
Relatively short section. Hodge twins. Eater. FD Signifier. I'm going to keep it a bean. I have not ever watched a FD Signifier video and thought, that was a good expenditure of my time. With that being said, personal biases put aside, let me elaborate a bit before. You know, I've mentioned him a couple times throughout the video, and I mentioned about, you know, his insistence, for instance, on calling, like, ABBA a coon, and it doesn't even stop there. There have been other instances where he's called other people race traitors, like Kidology, for instance.
The video wasn't about trashing Kidology explicitly. Like, this is not kind to Kidology. She will not enjoy watching this video, and I'm not going to try to, like, gaslight into thinking that this was a nice thing to do, right? Or this is a kind thing to do.
My channel was reported. I lost subscribers. I lost the majority of my income. And this was all a result of the things that FD said in his response to my video and directly to me. The views on my original video suddenly stopped entirely, and all the views went to his out of context reaction to particular statements I'd made. They determine who is truly black and who isn't, which in their eyes gives them the authority to use the exact same kind of derogatory racist language that creates the very divisions they claim to want to overcome in the first place.
This is the problem with like as a token.
It depends on what position the token is in.
Not only is a racist slur, it is also described by the Jim Crow Museum of Racist Memorabilia as follows. The caricature is one of the most insulting of all anti-black caricatures. The name itself, an abbreviation of raccoon, is dehumanizing. My channel was impacted by FD's disproportionate response to my video because it wasn't the right kind of black for him.
My personal displeasure for him aside, even I can ascertain that, you know, he is, in a way, to the black community, insofar that you want to call it that, as, I don't know, ContraPoints is to the trans community. He's like the most prominent black voice, I suppose. And, you know, given his bio of like, oh, analysing black media and black whatever, like that's how he's positioning himself and or is positioned by his audience, you know. If you want to hear the black take, you go to FD Signifier, you know. Supposedly anyway, because as self-described by himself, he has actually watched his audience become whiter over time, which is something that he seems somewhat upset by.
My viewers and subscribers have indicated to me that they are much whiter than they used to be just a couple of years ago. And I've also come to accept that there's probably nothing I can do to stop it.
Is there an argument to be made that FD Signifier is dancing for the white man? After all, the majority of it? No. Like, that's dumb, and commentary channels, hence why I was doing that voice, are kind of fucking dumb too. FD Signifier dancing for the white man? You sound fucking stupid. He's not as militantly pro-black as somebody like Doctor Umar, for instance. FD Signifier is okay with interracial dating, after all. What a... race... No, I'm kidding. Ostensibly pro-black, or a certain kind of it anyway. He's definitely the kind of person that would also, like, throw somebody out of the umbrella of black people if they're not the kind of black person that he likes. Again, ABBA, and then the run-ins with Kidology, and then probably a bunch of other shit that I'm not privy to because I do not follow him or anyone that religiously to give a shit. But probably A tier in the pro-black whatever. I just find him a bit unsavory, or his content at least. I don't know his character or his person overall. However, if you wanted to, I don't know, get more of an understanding as to why I don't really like, at the very least, his content, you could probably watch my video called The Video Essay Problem and get a bit of an idea as to why that is. Next we have motherfucking Myron Gaines. I don't know why I said it like that. Who, I'm gonna keep it a bean. I mean, this probably comes, for my audience at least, no surprise to any of them. I do not fuck with this guy, pause. Got one of those fucking Manosphere podcasts, and they're fucking, I'm not gonna go into it right now, because the longer a stretch of time I can go without thinking of those shows and all the concepts and theories that they talk about, the better. I've spoken about it at length at previous times, but you know, here's why okay for men to cheat, here's why women should be submissive and shut the fuck up and blah blah blah. It's one of those, you know, it's one rule for me, it's one rule for everybody else. I'm an alpha male, I'm got all this money, and everybody else is whatever. Hate him.
Why is everyone sitting here coddling women from their poor fucking decisions? If you want to be a fat hoe, fantastic, but don't expect me to sit here, bust my ass, become a self-made multi-fucking millionaire, get my clout, get my status up, and accept you, bitch. Fuck out of here.
What we're saying is all women are fucking gold diggers. Some are just better at hiding the shovel. I genuinely believe. I honestly think all women are gold diggers. Some are just better at hiding the shovel. All girls are gold diggers. Some are just better at hiding the shovel. All women are gold diggers. Some are just better at hiding the shovel. If a man wants sex, that's one of the few things that men ask for. You know what I'm saying? And if you guys don't deliver on that, you're useless. I'll just be honest.
I think the first thing that I became privy to relative to their anti-blackness, let's say, was their stance on black women, let's say. I'll just play the clip. It'll be pretty self-explanatory.
I mean, hey, bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
LaQuisha.
Yeah, like me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like that. Man. We ain't night riders.
Nah,
so
bro, I'm good.
You know, sometimes if they're, you know, red bone, but like in general, me and Fresh don't dabble in the dark, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay. So last one, guys.
Even more egregiously, Broski was on Sneeko's stream and deadass like put a hood on and then also did a sig hop. It's like, you're fucking, what a fucking clown.
What the fuck? Stop!
What? Hey guys, when we speak, everyone raise your hand. Raise your hand.
No.
Raise your hand.
No.
So we take turns.
No, Nick, no, not you.
No. Kidding. I can't do it. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I heard that some of y'all were raising the salute, so I decided to come back.
Let's go. Poor Sneeko. Pearl rolls out. Oh, come on.
No!
We're down. Let's go.
No.
Let's go. We're down for whatever.
Broski pulled up to a whites-only chat as though he's one of them, and then after he left, they started talking shit about him, because it's like, bro, you're in a chat where you're not welcome and like championing, yeah, this is why the country should be made even whiter, and it's like, you are the black that these alt-right whites are trying to kick out. Do you not realize this? You...
But then later that night, they're just behaviour. You know, I think it was you, Comfy, that was speaking about that guy where he, half an hour later, he's posting shit like, yeah, as many bitches as you can, and just full behavior.
Yeah.
You know?
Myron Gaines. Yeah. Myron Gaines.
Broski on his show, Fresh and Fit, has had people like Nick Fuentes on, and if you're not familiar with who that is, he sounds like this.
And we need to have a majority of white people, and white people need to be running America. Only white people should be running the country. On average, blacks have the lowest IQ.
I feel like I remember there being a leaked phone call and some other stuff that came out too that got you kicked out of school too, no? Was that?
Yeah, that is something.
Something about like if a white girl dates a black person, it's the same as like a dog, something like that, maybe? Am I?
You know, enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, they had to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal. Oh no, they had to go to a different school. You know, even if it was bad, who cares?
Italians supported Hitler, didn't they?
Well,
And
not the
Italians are
Italians that
known
came to
to be
America, but also I support Hitler, so it's really beside the point.
That's so wild.
But look, but you don't really understand, okay?
We are running a time now. Let's go.
A second ago when I said that like he literally thinks he's white, that wasn't me exaggerating. He quite literally had a Freudian slip where he referred to white people and then said we as though he's a part of that group.
Some dudes are like, yeah, this is gonna be funny. Esco Brothers is for a funny story and shit. But I, you know, and then some guys are like, hell fucking no. I've noticed with black dudes, they don't like doing that shit. White guys, we're all like, yeah, well, I said we. Yeah, but not me.
He's white. He's white, Justin. He's white. He a black bro.
Hey, man.
That was natural.
I officially just stamped Myron as white.
This is low-key taking me back to like the Robin DiAngelo days, because she, despite how terrible her books were, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about that book, for instance, White Fragility, she seemingly had this concept wherein certain POCs would think that they could get to a certain level of status whereby they almost like became white, and not white in skin color, but like she had white as being tantamount to something else approximating some form of status. I'm not going to go into it. This is years ago now, but generally speaking, I think that's kind of a dumb idea. But it's stuff like this where it's like, oh, he really thinks if he gets to a certain level of status, a certain level of money, a certain level of, I don't know, attractiveness or whatever, that it's almost as if he kind of like crosses the threshold of black, as though he's like a fundamentally different being. And it's like, bro, you're just a decrepit, foul individual. Like, what the fuck do we expect from the author? I don't expect that this man can write, and if he can, it's certainly not going to be well. The author of a book quite literally called Why Women Deserve Less. What's that thing that like 40-year-old white British guys say? They're like, oh, I fucking hate him so much, I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. And that's around about how I feel about Myron Gaines. Wouldn't piss on him if he were on fire. And now, for better or worse, a man that needs no introduction because he is both famous and infamous, Kanye West. Now, until some fairly recent escapades came to light, initially I was going to use this clip.
What do you say to people that say you turned your back on the culture or
exactly 100%? I have turned my back on the idea of victimization mentality. We are locked up. We went from 1 and 4. We went from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3, but we always pointing at the white people, but yet we want to spend all of our money on foreigns. We want to spend all our money on luxury as opposed to going and buying some land. America is for sale, and there's a lot of barren land. Disney bought a lot of it in Florida, but the culture has you focused so much on fucking somebody bitch and pulling up in a foreign and rapping about things that could get you locked up and then saying you about prison reform. Like, it's, bro, we brainwashed out here, bro.
And I was going to go on to talk about, you know, it's not necessarily obvious what is meant by the culture because it doesn't necessarily specify within the interview. He just says the culture. Is he talking about rap culture, hip-hop culture, black culture? The clip that I originally found it from labels it as black culture, but again, within the actual video, nobody specifies it as black culture specifically. And then if it is black culture, it's like, is that what you think black culture is? All these kind of like negative things and connotations, in which case that's pretty anti-black if you ask me. However, you know, what happened, and things have gotten far worse since. I'm not even necessarily sure if I could say, oh, this is Kanye being like an alt-right sympathizer or whatever. I was going to say I don't know what's going on with him. Quite frankly, I don't think anybody does. At the very least, there seems to be a thing of like, oh, I'm just going to do all the things that they tell me that I'm not supposed to do and see what happens. Like, you're...
I got a white leather one and fall right in the perfect place. Really? Yeah.
I was never particularly a huge Kanye fan. Though one thing I can definitely... Like, I get the appeal to an extent, but one thing I can certainly say, like, the Kanye diehards, I just don't get it. Like, the most I've been able to surmise the people that, like, you know, he does this thing, then this thing, then this thing, and they still, like, hold on to him. The only thing I can surmise is, like, do you guys just not listen to any other music or any other genres? Because I'm like, I can get why Kanye would be so kind of, like, magnificent to somebody that only listens to rap, because at least he, like, incorporates different instrumentals and styles and stuff. But, like, if you at least had, like, a broader palette, his stuff isn't that revolutionary. And this isn't to, like, disparage the stuff that he's previously done, or like talk ill of it in this kind of like revisionist way of like, oh, he's a bad person, so I'm going to talk ill of his previous works or whatever. It's not that at all. I'm just like, if you're a Kanye fan at this point, you're in an abusive relationship, like people allege that his wife is, if she is even his real wife and it's not all just like a publicity thing, you know. How can you say that, Layton? That's a man's wife. This is the guy that like parades her around like a sex object. Doesn't seem particularly husband-like to do that, or he's just like perpetually horny, which I guess is kind of true. Didn't he crash out on Twitter and start like posting some of his favorite like porn videos or something? It was like, I don't know, dude. If I were being fully bad faith, I'd probably put it on the anti-black part, but also like this guy is clearly mentally unwell, so gonna hold off from now. There you go, Mr. West. You don't have to hear what old Chuckles has to say about you. Sad. What a sad state of affairs. And then for your penultimate case study. Penultimate, if you didn't know, means second to last. We have me. You know, I was going to add a bunch of stuff that I could throw in and talk about, like, here are my credentials, my black credentials, whether they were going to go, like, for it or against it or whatever, you know, in this kind of, like, canonical idea of what you would constitute as, like, pro and anti-black, let's say. And then I thought, well, that's probably kind of redundant, especially by the point that you get to the end of the video. You can probably come to your own conclusions about where I fall on my own tier list, I guess. I've made videos about race relation stuff. If you want, you can do a whole deep dive on those, but, you know, I don't know, what other things should I add? If I were to add anything at this point, I would say that largely, though not entirely, I think the idea of being a so-called race traitor is kind of dumb. I don't think that anybody owes any category that they end up being born into, whether that's like the sex that they are or the race that they are. I don't think they owe like a coherency in like, oh, because I'm this thing, I have to believe this thing. I think that's kind of dumb and limiting for the most part. I think interracial relationships, you could do that if you want. People fall in love with who they're gonna fall in love with, and I think true love is so fleeting and difficult to find. Like the idea that somebody would kind of inhibit themselves from indulging in that just because the person is like the wrong shade of a color is pretty fucking stupid.
Are you totally against interracial relationships?
I am totally against it, and I want to make sure you understand why. Marriage ain't about love, it's not colorblind, and it is totally economic.
I'm already black, I don't need no black bitch.
I am the penultimate. The last person in actuality is Donald Glover. If you want to hear about my thoughts regarding him, there's a whole video dedicated towards it, baby boy, and so you can click that here. Conversely, if you want to hear my extended thoughts about the video essay genre, as I alluded to earlier in this video, you can also find that somewhere on the screen at this moment in time. Consider joining the Patreon, get your name immortalized in future videos, and yeah, I think that's everything. And so, as always, thanks for hanging out with me. I had fun hanging out with you. Parasocial Relationship Game 100.
Layton of Subs.
I feel liberated.